The reason that this was really impactful for me is these guys were discussing a lot of the issues that I think we have with society, and specifically they're talking about dissatisfaction with people and their lifestyles, and specifically like careers, which is something I have absolutely struggled with pretty much my adult life. And I'm not going to get into it right this minute, but these are some of the issues that they were talking about that I'm very passionate about, that I am actively trying to, I guess, address in my own way through my YouTube channel and through some other projects that I have going on. But I wanted, I'm just going to read through these things, read through the quotes that I thought that were really impactful for me, and I'll just explain to you what I thought about that, what I think about these quotes. And the reason that this was really impactful for me is because these two guys are what I would consider quite successful as far as living a fulfilling life. And they even specifically address this. They're like, it's never going to be perfect. But these two guys have, I think, a lifestyle that most people would agree with is very ideal. And I personally am going towards something very similar. So to hear these guys who are on the other side of this spectrum that have already, you could say, made it, or are living their fulfilling life and you know, pursuing their dreams. And so to hear these concerns and these quotes out of their mouth were really impactful for me, because they are where I would consider a place that I want to go. And where I'm at is, I would say I am just barely past some of these quotes. And the reason that these are impactful for me is because having just gotten through what these guys were talking about, it fucking blows. And there were a lot of hard lessons learned and a lot of trials that I am going to try to hopefully help other people avoid. But to hear them specifically talk about these things was really great, because it gave a lot of, in my opinion, credence to where I'm going. And so I want to read these and share just read these and share my thoughts on them. But the very first thing that Joe Rogan starts out of the gate saying is, people that are working all day long doing something that's deeply unsatisfying and almost painful. And Dan responds to that just by saying soul killing. And that, oh my God, that is something I can resonate with. That is something I can resonate with to my core. And I have a feeling a lot of people can as well. I have been in places in my life more than once where it's sickening to get out of bed and go work and do something that you just absolutely know to your core is not what you're supposed to do. And it took me years and years, and I struggled through that and ended up with some other factors in a very dark place in my life, just depression, some uses of, medicating and other stuff like that. Yeah. Because of I've experienced the soul-killing career. And everybody's always kind of looked at me a little bit crazy, I feel like, because I've always tried to do something different. I've always tried to... I just knew that the normal career for me, it wasn't going to work for me. It's not going to work. And I tried, and I tried, and I tried, and I felt like it was the responsible things to do, and it ended up in basically a quarter-life crisis and a pretty severe depression. There was more to it than just the soul-crushing part of it, of working. There was some other issues involved, but anyway, I know that the soul-crushing career doesn't have to be the way everybody goes. And I'm not saying it's not for everybody, but I promise you, if you are feeling like you're in a soul-crushing place, in a soul-crushing career, or soul-crushing everything, like, there's hope on the other side. I'm going to jump to this because I feel like this is important. Let's see if I can find it, but, I don't remember where it is. Yeah, okay. So, like, the whole soul-crushing thing. Joe goes on to say, you feel like, Yeah, so the soul-crushing thing, like Joe even goes on to specifically address something I thought was really important, and he says, you feel like this is your future. You feel like you're fucked. You can't get out, and you have no hope. And I know you're feeling that. At least some of you are, because I felt that to a freaking T. And the cool thing is there is hope, and that it doesn't have to be your future. And I plan on at least doing my absolute best of proving that. But two, more importantly, is like showing other people that you don't have to, because I know for a fact that you don't have to, and I am just really at the beginning of this journey. But the fact that I finally broke through this, and like I am just at the other side, seeing that there's other light, I feel so obligated and so excited to be able to try to help people go through that as well. And so this is why this talk was so impactful for me. So those were just kind of the first couple quotes. I'm going to keep moving down here. But I have some ideas. I need to find them. Okay, so he goes on to talk about, Joe goes on after this quote, saying that people feel like they have no future, they're fucked, they can't get out, there is no hope. He goes on to say, quote, but I have some ideas. He's referring to the people that feel this way. But I have some ideas, and you need to find them. And he says, about these ideas, you need to feed them, you need to water them, you need to set aside time every day to make these things happen. And this is something that, like, this is absolutely so on point. Is there? I know you guys have other ideas, and it's actually something that I'm working on right now. That part of what I'm hoping to do, I have a lot of irons in the fire right now, but one of the things that has been placed in my path that I'm going to try to pursue is some online courses. And the very first one is something that I'm going to title Don't Take a Leap. And what it is it has to do with, I have some of these ideas. And like, it's basically the idea of taking you from this soul-crushing life, career, to this idea of your ideas, your ideal life, I guess. And one of those things is I feel that people feel like from this life that they have now to their fulfilled life, there's this gap in between. And that's why I'm saying don't take the leap. Because people feel that to get from their life that they have now to their ideal fulfilled life, there's a leap here. And if that implies either total success or total failure, and the total failure is catastrophic, and even death. So people don't ever want to do that. So part of the things that one of the irons that I have in the fire is a course to show people that, hey, actually, you don't have to take a leap. There's a systematic path from the career or the life that you have now to the one that you want. And there's absolutely no guarantees whatsoever, but these guys go on to talk about it later, is there aren't any guarantees, but it's actually not that risky anymore. And that's why this was something that was really hit home for me, is because part of this course is showing people it's like, hey, this really isn't that risky anymore. And they're talking specifically about starting a business. And I am specifically talking about doing very similar things with business principles, but not having a business. And I can explain that a little bit later, but having experience with businesses and employees and responsibilities, trust me, it is completely overrated. But these guys go on to talk about it a little bit later, about how if, systematically you can work from here to here. You don't have to take the leap. And what I'm trying to do is, like, let's say I was here. I've gotten down off of this ledge, and I know for sure all of these steps to get over there. I mean, well, I know for sure the steps that I'm going to take that I think is going to get me here. And through a lot of research and experience, I'm fucking confident it's going to work. And so I still have a lot of work to do in that area, but that is what I am inspired to do right now, is to try to help people get from their shitty lives, their soul-crushing careers, and they feel like they have no hope, to the realization of like, oh, actually there is a path here, because you're not fucked. You do have hope. This isn't your future. All right. Moving on from that. one of the things that they go on to talk about, I think this was Dan, is he's talking about some of his older friends, and this is so true about all of these. I would say, what would you even call it? There are so many things out in life that are just, you know them. There's an actual name for them, but anyway, Dan is talking about his older friends, and he's in his 50s, and he's talking about his friends in his 50s, and people that have also passed away, and I've had people pass away in my life, so I'm sure a lot of you have too, and everybody knows that when somebody's on their deathbed, their regrets are not their failures. It's their lack of taking the chances and the risks and the pursuing it. And he says specifically here, like, they aren't sorry that they failed, they're sorry that they never tried. And I know that that is incredibly true. And for me personally, I should say I know that that's true for me. And one of my biggest drivers in life, motivators in life, is to not regret anything. And I know that a lot of people say that, and it's a great one to have, but it's a little bit more difficult in principle until it becomes a practice. But yeah, that was one of the things that was just impactful. That was one of the things that was impactful for me, because it's just one of these truths that is out there, that is known. But it's one of these truths that until you like grasp it, and until you apply it, I guess that's the thing, is until you actually apply it, it's of no consequence. And let me just encourage you guys to start trying. Start trying. Failure is really not that big of a deal. It's absolutely necessary, and it's not that big of a deal. You fail all the time. Learn how to fail better. That's really all you need to do. So, another thing that they talk about specifically in this conversation is something I alluded to a little bit ago, but they alluded to something in this conversation that I absolutely know is true, and because I've experienced it without question, and I think that a lot of you guys are too. And I want to read you the exact quote. I believe this was Dan that said this, but it says, "If you hate your job, that's nature telling you that you need to do something different." Boom! That's fucking true. The next thing is that the motivation for that is that you might not have to do that soul-killing job anymore. That's big. And I can tell you that I know for sure, the first part is absolutely true, is that is your way of your nervous system telling you this isn't good. And Jim Carrey has a quote, I'm probably not going to get it totally right, but he says, "Depression is your avatar's way of telling you it doesn't like the character you're playing anymore." And I thought that was really impactful too. Just a different way of looking at it. But guys, I don't want to say all depression is like this, but as somebody who has been very depressed, there oftentimes are reasons. And oftentimes, this is not going to be great to hear, but you know why. You know why you're not happy. And a lot of times it is your career. It's the thoughts of your future in particular. And just one of the main things that has come up in my research is just in order to really start pursuing a fulfilling life, is like you have to be self-aware. You have to know yourself. And for me, I finally gotten to a place where I'm finally doing that pretty well, and I've made some pretty large steps with that. And one of them was, why am I depressed, and started addressing that. And I'll just be honest with you, like one of them, this is another one of those things that's really known, is like my health. I was pouring a depressant into my body for years and years and years, and just being depressed. That was part of it. The other thing too is I wasn't taking care of my health, and I wasn't able to do the things that I used to be able to do as a former collegiate athlete. I knew that I was not taking the correct steps. I was in a career I didn't like. I was not treating my body well. My relationships were not in order. And it finally came to a point where it sucked at the time, but I got to a breaking point, and I am trying to help you guys avoid that, because it's very uncomfortable and unpleasant. But I'm incredibly grateful that I had that experience, because it got me out of that into another part of life, to the next step. Yeah. Now the second part, yeah. So there we go. Those are those quotes. So we already did. So, in this talk, they said something. Um, Later on in this conversation, Dan goes on to say, Dan goes on in this conversation to talk about something that he refers to as the hinge point. And what that is he specifically says to something that Joe said, that was your hinge point. And I'll read what Joe said to establish kind of what he means by the hinge point. I couldn't do it. I couldn't work the normal job. I couldn't fit into it. Like, I just couldn't do it. And so he had to figure out something else. And that was his hinge point. And I would call that a pivot. Same thing, same concept. So you have to find another way. You have to find another way. If you're dissatisfied with how things are going, you have to find another way. And it might not be your fault in the situation that you're in, but it is your responsibility to get yourself out of it. And there are so many resources and so many known ways of doing this. And one of the things I'm very excited to be able to do is share with you those steps that have worked for me, because I am very new on this side of the situation where I was not happy at all with life, and I went through a pretty rough transition phase of having to figure out a lot about myself, but I'm here now, just out of that. And a few of the things that I have for sure found out is, yeah, it might not be your fault where you're at, but it is absolutely your responsibility to get out of there. Nobody can do this for you. I heard recently, I don't remember where it was, but somebody said, somebody had mentioned a piece of advice that they had gotten, and it said, there's no shining knight in your story. There's no superhero that's going to come and rescue you. And if you're just sitting there waiting for that to happen, you're going to be really disappointed. So take it upon yourself. If you want your life to change, you're going to have to change it. You're going to have to take the responsibility for it. But there are very systematic ways of doing it. And they're all out there. And I have spent a bunch of my life reading them, and I'm sure a lot of you have too, all of these self-improvement books and everything like that. And I think that we've finally just gotten to a point in this country where people are realizing, once this pandemic has hit, that the old way isn't going to work anymore. And there is no new way that anybody has laid out the path for you. People are starting to do that, and I'm hoping that in my tiniest little bit of experience that maybe I can help people do that. I've at least gone from the not good, and I've gone through the really rough part, and I'm just at this side. I still am hoping there's a lot more to come, but let me just tell you guys, getting to this point is so much better than here. And quite frankly, if we as a society don't start doing that, we're going to have a lot of... It's not going to be good for our society. And actually, Dan specifically talks about this. And I want to find this quote real quick. So this quote here, he's referring to the very dissatisfied people. And he's mentioned a few times in this talk about society and these people. And he talks about, I can't remember if it was an experiment or it was some sort of talk that I think that he gave, that it was called The Revenge of the Gangrenous Finger. And gangrene, I'm not real familiar. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but gangrene, it's an infection of some sort, something probably going to kill you. But anyway, this is what he was talking about in reference to the idea of the gangrenous finger. So, he's talking about society. If you ignore people in your society that are not doing well enough, it's kind of like saying, yes, my finger has gangrene, but it's the little one, so who cares? Eventually, if you ignore that finger long enough that has gangrene, it's going to poison your entire blood system and destroy the body. That was really impactful for me. That was, yeah. And, yeah. What he says here. So, what he says here. If you ignore people in your society that aren't doing well long enough, it's kind of like saying, yes, my finger has gangrene, but it's the little one, so who cares? But eventually, if you ignore it long enough, it's going to poison your entire blood system and destroy your body. That was a pretty powerful metaphor for me. They go on here a little bit later to talk about a revolution. Well, actually, they started talking about the revolution at the beginning. And they're talking about this gangrenous finger and these people that are dissatisfied in society. And at one point they talk about a revolution. And Joe specifically says, a revolution of actions and ideas. And that's the hope. They say specifically not a violent revolution, but talking about a revolution of actions and ideas. And I think that we've gotten to a point recently with just the economic situation, political, and with a pandemic going on, that I think the camel's back has broken for a lot of people. I, honest to God, hope it has. Because if we look at our society, there are so many people in society that aren't doing well, that are dissatisfied. And we're supposed to be in this country of opportunity and work hard and get to this point. Well, I can tell you for a fact that a lot of people are not experiencing that. And it's not lack of working hard. It's the idea that, oh, we are supposed to be the most advanced civilization that we've ever seen in this world. And somehow we still have to work 40, 50, 60 hours a week to barely scrape by. And this just isn't the idea that we were sold on years ago by other generations of like, oh no, if you work hard, like you'll just get where you want to go. That's not true anymore. The system doesn't work that way anymore. Not for the employee or the little guy. And I'm so fucking tired of that. Because I was in that situation. And I've been on a lot of both sides of that. I was the employee and the employer. And one thing that I am so certain about now is that old way of doing things for a lot of people, I won't say for most, but for a lot of people, and you know who you are, it's the people that are very dissatisfied with your career and your lifestyles. The reason you're dissatisfied is because you know that shit's not gonna work. We have to figure out a different way of doing it. And I have a lot of ideas about that. I don't know if they're going to work. But what I can tell you is I am going to try my damnedest to pursue my fulfilling life. And that I know is kind of a broad statement, but what I've realized part of that is trying to help other people get to that place where they can also be fulfilled. And so what I want to do with this YouTube channel is all I can really do, like the conflict that I had with this is I really want to help people experience that. But I am not I am not to the successful point yet, which I'm actually going to stop real quick. And what I'm trying to do, what I want to do with my YouTube channel, is I want to at least inspire people to try to pursue what they think is going to be their fulfilling life. Because that's all I can really do right now. I don't have any necessarily physical evidence that you could see. I do know to my core, without question, that that a lot of these problems that people are facing are already been solved. There are so many people out there that have already written the pathways to how to get to these successful lives. And I am going to do my damnedest to try all of them, or to try them until I'm to a place where I'm satisfied. And I have a lot of ideas, and what I've been telling the way that I've been feeling recently is that I've been a know-it-all, and I need to be a do-it-all, because knowledge is worthless if it's not applied. So that's what I'm going to try to do with my life, with my lifestyle, and with my YouTube channel. Is there are a lot of principles that I am very convinced are for sure the best routes that you could possibly go to get to certain destinations. And I hesitate to use the word success because it's different for everybody else, but part of it is I know what I want my success to look like. I know what I want my fulfilling life to look like, or at least getting a damn good idea about it. And all I can do is pursue that. And I've known for a really long time that the normal way was not going to work for me, and it was been a struggle. This is one of the things that they've mentioned in the conversation, Joe and Dan. They were talking about Kevin Hart specifically, but just in general, talking about very successful people. And what they say, what Joe is saying is, if you look at somebody doing really well, all you see is them now, flying around in private jets, wearing new sneakers every day, and driving around in Bentleys. That's all you see. You didn't see the scratching and the crawling to get there. Like, you didn't see their path. And I think that's so true in this area of self-improvement or self-help or anything like that. And what I've realized is in this area, there's not a lot of examples of people of the journey of making it, whatever that end goal is of making it. But there aren't a lot of people that have no, I've broken out and this is what I'm trying to do. And that's why I feel like I am in a pretty unique situation, because I'm not at the end goal yet. But can I just look at this cheesy grin on my face? The end goal is not what's going to make you happy. It is the process and the journey that is going to. And I do know that for damn sure. And I know where I want this end goal to be. I at least have aspirations for that. I think aspirations are much better than goals, but I'm not going to get into that right this minute. Goals are important. Aspirations are what should drive you. I am hoping that with this channel and with what I'm doing now is with these principles that I am very convinced will work and have worked and have been documented for forever. All I can do is apply those as best that I can and do my best to try to get to my fulfilling life and encourage you guys to do the same. And that looks totally different for everybody. But I know what it's like to be in that soul-crushing place, and it's so awful. And I'm hoping that you don't have to go through the experiences that I went through, and quite frankly, you wouldn't be able to, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody. But I'm hoping to be able to take those experiences to bring you to at least to where I'm at now, to tell you, hey, there are different ways of doing it, and I'm going to get into in depth, hopefully, on all of this stuff, but this is just the very beginning. Hey, I'm here. I can tell you that, like, this isn't everything that is in life has to offer. There is a lot more to it, and I'm at the other side of this wall where I can see all these possibilities. I haven't realized them quite yet, but I know that they're there and they're in my grasp, and I want to help everybody else that's still over here just get to this other wall, or just know that you can get to this other wall. That's what I'm trying to do. And I think that there's a lot of people that can find a ton of value in this. I hope that they can. And actually, even if one person does, I know that sounds really, really cheesy, but if one person gets value out of this, this is totally worth it. Because I'll just let you in on one other of the principles that I know for certain are a key to happiness, and one of that is generosity. This is the only way at the moment, or the best way at the moment, that I know how to be generous, is giving the little bit of knowledge that I have now to as many people as I possibly can. And the thing about the generosity, it's this amazing caveat that generosity is the most selfish thing that you can do, because you will never, ever, ever feel anything better than giving freely with no expectations. That's a new lesson for me. I'm not just trying to act like I'm a saint or anything like that, but this is something that I've started to apply in my life, and it is absolutely life-changing. So if you find value in this, subscribe. I'm going to do the best that I can. I have a lot to learn, but I'm going to do the absolute best that I can to try to show you people that you can get out of this shitty life, and that, quite frankly, I mean, I haven't done it yet, but I'm damn confident that you can achieve anything you want. And I have a lot of big aspirations that I'm going to go for. And I think if I can accomplish even a little bit of them and inspire some people, that is an immense amount of value. It is to me, and that's all I really give a shit about, quite frankly. One of the keys to happiness is being selfish, and I can't get into that exactly right now, because that's a really bad way of just leaving it and saying it, but I can promise you, if everybody was more selfish, this world would be way better off. So, if you find value in this, I beg of you to subscribe to this and hit the notifications, because I'm going to really try hard to help anybody that finds value in this to find as much value out of my channel as you can. I want to show people that you can get to the life that you want. You're not just trapped. So, yeah, hit that subscribe button for me, would you?